Disney has created so many amazing villains. Ursula, Jafar, Scar, Frollo, and so many others have been so iconic for their villainy. Sadly, one of my favorite villains isn't in that Hall of Fame, even though he is just so great. The villain I refer to is Prince John from Disney's Robin Hood film. Prince John has everything you could want from a villain. He's both evil and incompetent, which can spell for disaster in many other stories, but here it is just what the film needs. For Robin Hood to work, we need to see the rich he steals from and see them in a negative light. We can't root for Robin Hood if we sympathize with those he steals from, so Prince John is the perfect fit as an antagonist. He's a straight up horrible person. He taxes people for making fun of him and sends the Pope to jail for trying to help the poor. He also sucks his thumb and can't see through Robin Hood's horrible scams and plots. He does enough to be seen as evil and is unpredictable enough to be seen as a threat. Sure, he's childish, but coupled with his power, it makes a legitimate threat for Robin Hood to face. It's essential to strike a balance where he's not too silly and not too competent, so we can have him be a bad leader and then also for his practices and his qualifications. But the part that makes his rule as king the worst is that we actually do see the suffering that he causes. In so many stories, we only see the key players in a fight. Those who are most important, and often they are the ones with highest status. But in this film, we really get a look at that lowest part of society and how John's rule affects the common folk. And the real reason to be it's the real reason we begin to hate Prince John so much. With the constable, we see what the common folk have to deal with. People are taxed so heavily where they can't buy food or they'll be robbed by the constable. And if you try to fight back or run out of money, you go to jail. We saw some kids who accidentally shut an arrow inside the castle walls and were mortified by the thought of entering that castle due to what they've heard of Prince John's wrath. The constable is just a representation of John's cruelty. I love the constable so much because he says that I'm doing the right thing, I'm just doing my job, and he works in such a calm manner. The constable's calmness is more terrifying than if he's just shaking people down violently, because it shows that the constable doesn't care about robbing people, that he has peace of mind. And the constable is nothing more than an enforcer for Prince John, so no matter how much you hate the constable, it all goes back to John and his corrupt rule. All the suffering could end if John just wasn't so greedy and cared a tiny bit about his people. Prince John is nothing more than a tyrant pretending to be king, trying to be a worthy king, yet silencing everyone that is supposed to support him. The fact that the character is called Prince John is so telling. John was officially king at the start of the movie, but he was always referred to as Prince John. We learn that John is only king temporarily while his brother is off protecting the nation. But no one really thinks that John is really king, at least the citizens don't, anyways. So the fact that the character is referred to as Prince John shows just how bad a leader John is, because if he really was a good king, he would have been called King John. But John is so self-destructive that he continues to rob the citizens who are calling him prince, and if he just maybe didn't, and that goes back to the point I mentioned earlier where John is just incompetent. He doesn't realize that he could have prospered as king, he would have been respected and uplifted his citizens instead of locking them up, then he would have been good. The fact that Prince John put so much effort into catching Robin Hood is telling. Robin Hood has been returning the money that King John steals back to the citizens. They say that he robs from the rich, but in reality, Robin Hood is just returning people's money. We only see him robbing from the king, someone whose money is funneled from his people's pockets. The only thing that Robin does is ensure that people stay out of jail by giving them the money that he knows will eventually return to John because of the taxes. But the fact that John will focus all his efforts on catching Robin Hood is silly, because Robin Hood only steals because John robs. If John wasn't so greedy, Robin Hood wouldn't take all of John's money. But John's greed is just too powerful. He would rather kill the Pope instead of giving up a tiny bit of his money, which he already has so much of. That is why Prince John works so well. He's a very powerful person who's just straight up incompetent. They say the man who doesn't know how to shoot a gun is the most dangerous, and we see that with Prince John. His power, coupled with his stupidity, makes a truly scary foe to oppose, and one of Disney's best and most evil villains at the same time. I've been waiting to rewatch Robin Hood for a while now. It's a film I had a lot of nostalgia for and was worried that it just wouldn't stand up. Luckily, though, it still was really good. Prince John is only one of the many aspects I loved, and if you want me to talk about another, or even just another Disney film, let me know in the comments down below. For today's trivia, if you remember the name of the rooster who sings that really catchy song at the beginning, let me know in the comments. Another one of my favorite Disney movies as a child was Hercules. When I revisited, I just realized how much of a great hero Herc was, and I covered that this video. Subscribe for more videos about Disney. I have a lot more movies to cover, so again, suggestions, leave them down below. Thanks for watching. I've been Fictional Fanatics, and until the next one, bye!